Matthew Weatherbee, all the way from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'll put this chair back promptly.
My name's Matthew and I'm middle-aged. Actually, now that I'm in my 60s, I think technically I'm aging out of middle age. And for many years, as far as age is concerned, I was in denial. My journey to acceptance started in 2016 during a road trip to Colorado with my wife Laura. We had a lot of time off, and so on our drive out to Colorado, I was driving, Laura was in the passenger seat, she was on her phone, and she was looking at events that were taking place in Colorado during our stay. And she said, "How about we go to the Queen concert?" And I said, "The Queen concert? Wait, so Freddie Mercury is dead and has been for years, and I know the rest of the band is on touring, so I don't even know what you're talking about. What do you mean Queen concert?" She said, "No, it's the Queen tribute band." And I said, "Tribute band? That does not sound like it would be any good or any fun. That's going to be a no." She said, "Well, it says here they get great reviews and they're selling out large venues all over the country." And I said, "Okay, what venue are they playing in Colorado?" And she said, "The Red Rocks Amphitheater."
Whoa.
Red Rocks. I said, "Yes, I want to go to Red Rocks. I'm in. Buy the tickets now." And she did. So, we still had another week or so before the show, but I remember those days leading up to the show. I was thinking back on the rock and roll concerts of my youth and how much joy they brought me. I was getting excited for the show. My anticipation was right about at its peak on the day of the show. We got to the venue really early to find out everybody else got to the venue really early. The party had already started in the parking lot. It was a gorgeous Colorado afternoon. There were smells in the air of beer flowing, food grilling, and cannabis burning. It was an intoxicating environment even before we were intoxicated. Sooner or later, the crowd kind of moves into the venue like a congregation moving into a sanctuary. Red Rocks is an iconic venue. It's gorgeous. It's carved into the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, hosting some of the biggest names in music since the 1940s. To me, walking into Red Rocks is like walking into the Coliseum or the Notre Dame. We were all in the venue. The band took the stage. They launched into their music, and the crowd erupted. Because not only did they sound like Queen, they looked like Queen. They had the outfits, they had the hair, and fake Freddie Mercury even had prosthetic front teeth. They launched into their hits and they played them all. They played "We Will Rock You," followed by "We Are the Champions." They played "Bohemian Rhapsody." But by the way, here's what's great about tribute bands: it's only the hits. You don't have to sit through their new stuff. And with each hit they played, I was thinking back on rock concerts in my youth, and every song they played, I could just feel myself getting younger and younger. I had worked myself into this kind of youthful euphoria. I felt like a kid again. But then this happened. The band announced they were going to take an intermission. An old gray-headed white guy in khakis and a golf shirt trots out on stage with a microphone to make the following announcement. "I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to An Evening with Queen, presented by Colorado Public Television. I hope you will all consider joining or donating to PBS tonight, because without support from viewers like you, we wouldn't be able to produce such quality programming and live events such as this." Wait, what? PBS? So Ted from Channel 12 had just delivered to me my reality check. Right at that moment, I went from feeling the youngest. I went from feeling like a kid at Woodstock to feeling like an old man at a PBS fundraiser. I went from feeling the youngest I had felt in years to feeling the oldest I had felt in years. Ouch. So, apparently, the Queen Tribute Band was my generation's Lawrence Welk reruns. And people say, so you felt old because you were at a PBS fundraiser? No. I felt old because I was at a PBS fundraiser and didn't know it. And I thought, oh my God, are they going to hand out free tote bags? I was having kind of a miniature midlife crisis right then and there, and I sit down in my seat, head in my hands, and my wife Laura sensed it. Nobody knows me as well as Laura, and she always knows exactly what to say. And she tapped me on the knee and she said, have you taken your cholesterol pill? I said, you know what? Not now. This is not the time. I needed a drink. I jumped out of my seat and I went to the beer counter and I said, there was a young bearded hipster behind the beer counter. I said, one beer please. And he said, okay, do you want the Pilsner, the IPA, the stout, or the shandy? And I thought, oh my God, I'm so old I don't know what any of that means. And I said to him, you know, back in my day, your choices were Coors Light or That's All. So I left the beer counter in disgust. I was embarrassed. It was embarrassing that I wasn't familiar with craft beer, but what was even more embarrassing, I had just used the phrase back in my day. So I went to the wine tent. Here's a product I'm familiar with. I ordered a glass of Cabernet, and like the old pretentious white guy that I was, I swirled it, and I sniffed it. And in this weird kind of middle-aged sacrament, I placed the satin on my tongue, and I drank from the chalice. For those of you a little younger, a statin is a cholesterol pill, and I don't mean to be condescending. Condescending means you're going to be explaining the meaning of something to somebody that probably already knows. Anyway, right after that little cholesterol pill communion, you know what? I let go of some stuff. When it comes to aging, I let go of some stuff. Maybe aging's not so bad. I went back to my seat, sat with Laura, and we watched the second half of the show, which was electrifying. From start to finish, that was one of the best rock and roll concerts I've ever been to. And when the show was over, on that quiet ride home, I had to kind of process it. And I thought, you know, that wasn't really Freddie Mercury, and that wasn't really Queen. They were playing a role, but they killed it. They could have won an Oscar for it. And then it occurred to me, the audience was also playing a role. We were playing the role of our younger selves, and we nailed it. I took some vows. Well, I made some promises to myself that night. I took some vows. One, I'm going to go to more tribute band concerts than I have. Two, I'm going to seek out more opportunities to play the role of my younger self. And I have. Three, I'll remember to take my cholesterol. Number four, and this is the most important. You bet your ass I'm going to donate to PBS.